Hey everybody, how you doing today? Sorry for the little delay. There's a little mix up here for some reason. But hey, if you're a veteran that recently separated, this might be a show for you. We're going to showcase awesome nonprofit today. And so let's go ahead and get this show started. All right, yep. My name is Tim Hauser. A lot of you do call me the golf ball advocate. Not sure why. Yep. You all know why. But today we have a very special guest who's going to tell us all about a nonprofit called Hope for the Warriors. This is an awesome nonprofit. So, everyone, welcome to the show. Marine Corps, retired Marine Corps Sergeant Major Lee Bonar. How you doing, Lee?
Hey, great, Tim, and it's an honor to be here today and to talk to all of your listeners and all the veterans out there, family members, Gold Blue Star families. It's an honor to let you hear my voice. And if there's anything I can say to help anybody tonight, to help me to keep having purpose in life, it's just an honor. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's definitely an honor to have you on. And now, Hope for the Warriors. What is Hope for the Warriors?
Well, Hope for the Warriors is a veteran nonprofit organization that was started in 2006 down here aboard Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. And back then it was the key wives. The wives of each and every Marine Corps unit would work with the commanding officer's wife or spouse. And they would help take care of the other family members when we were deployed or out training or things like that. Back in 2006, the rotation to Afghanistan and Iraq was just, it was, you might come back for 45 to 60 days and you were ripping back out. Mm-hmm. And those that were wounded and injured, the doctors, even the docs and, the corpsmen and the medics, even up at Fort Bragg, that's only about an hour and 40 minutes away from here. Same thing was going on up there. And, now Fort Liberty, I'm sorry. And, the doctors were even rotating out. The medics were rotating out. And some of these guys were getting over medicated. And the rear parties just weren't able to take care of the overflow. So we created Hope for the Warriors, our CEO, Robin Kelleher. And that's what happened. The key wives just all came together and helped make sure they got their appointments, make sure they were being taken care of. So she set up the nonprofit, and then they gave her a barracks, and they helped out and made sure things ended up happening. And the MEF commanding general got involved and gave her 3 housing units. And one of the furniture fairs out in town donated all the furniture, and we just kind of stood up that way. And we started hiring people. And so we have a lot of programs now. Now we're nationwide. So we're from California to the East Coast. We're up to New York. We're down in Florida. We're in Texas. We're in California. And we provide programs to our charter is a post 9/11 veteran charter. But we don't turn any veteran away, no matter what the conflict. So we have a wide range of referral sources to great either other nonprofits or some veteran service organizations that are dedicated to just certain conflicts, and they've been vetted. We've made sure that they are they're above board, and they are part of our strategic alliance, and we have a strategic alliance director that partners with those entities. And we meet every year and we do MOUs with them, memorandum of understanding, so that everything's above board, those types of things. We have a lot of programs, so I'll let you. I don't know if you want me to just keep going or you want to ask some questions.
Let me chime in here just for a moment. And as I was researching organizations to bring onto the show to showcase and teach our fellow veterans all about them. I noticed that one of the things that really caught my eye was 91% of every dollar donated to Hopes for the Warriors goes directly to your programs and services. You have one of the highest ranking financial nonprofits in the country.
Yes, sir.
And that definitely caught my eye because because you get to a lot of these other bigger, I'm not going to say veteran organizations, but just other nonprofits in general.
Sure.
It seems like, you know, like at least 50% usually goes to payroll. And it's obviously the opposite for your organization, which I got to give you big props on because that's an amazing goal to reach. And so thank you for making sure that all that money goes back to veterans. And that's just amazing.
And if I could just add just a tiny bit to that, and there's a really, we're really proud of the reason behind it, Tim, is, and I did the research about this, probably been closer to 3 years ago. I looked up like the cheapest commercial that you could find on TV,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like $232,000 on a Tuesday morning at like 3:30 in the morning or 3:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you know how many veteran families and veterans I can help with financial aid for that?
Yes.
And that's the cheapest one.
Mm-hmm.
But I challenge everyone because I'm a Marine, so I'm always squeezing the penny to get a nickel. So and that's the way we are at Hope, because we consider a donation OPM. OPM is other people's money. It's not our money. It's
Mm-hmm.
not Hope for the Warriors money. It's our sponsors, our donors, and it's a patriot's dollar that believes in our country, that believes in freedom, and believes in the health and welfare of veterans and service members and their families and Golden Blue Star families. And they believe that we can help those individuals. So they're investing in us to fulfill a responsibility that they have invested into us. So that's how we look at a donation. Because really, it's exactly what it is. It's not like, save the polar bear, donate $20, we'll send you a stuffed polar bear, a calendar, a t-shirt, and a keychain. And how much money is really going to the polar bear, right?
Right.
So, I encourage everybody, go to Charity Navigator, like Tim said. If you are ever thinking about donating to anyone, I'm not saying you have to donate to us, but if you were ever thinking about donating to anyone, go to Charity Navigator, and just like Tim said, you can pull it up. You can actually look at their tax records.
Yep.
And it will give you a pie chart on how much money goes into their programs, how much they have to spend on operations, how much they spend on media, how much they spend on salaries, everything. It'll tell you exactly how much of your dollar is actually going to go to where you think it's going to go and where do you want it to go. And you can actually donate to Hope on our, we have this called the Circle of Hope. And say you look through our programs and you're a runner, or if you wanted to go to our MSWs for counseling, or if you wanted to go to military relations for our peer-to-peer support, you can actually donate at the Circle of Hope and say, I wanted to go to this program, or I wanted to go to that program. So we think that's very important too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, a lot of these organizations will say, hey, you just donate to us and then we're going to do whatever we want with your money. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think anybody that is going to invest into a nonprofit, they may have certain things that they really think is important to the veterans, that they want to see that grow, or maybe that program they want to invest in just in that part of that maybe nonprofit organization. We think that's really important. So that's another thing we do too.
That's very important. I like that they can designate to what program it goes to. Speaking of programs, you have quite the list of services that you do provide. Do you want to kind of go over some of those?
Yeah, and before I go through those programs,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of ties in with the what we just left. Is there's a lot of nonprofits out there that will help somebody one time, and then if somebody comes back to them, they'll refer them to someone else,
Yes.
and that's usually us. Um, Once you come to Hope for the Warriors, you belong to our family. So um, I'm just going to walk you through and I'll talk about a couple of programs. Then I'll try and talk about as many programs as I can as we go through this process.
Mm-hmm.
So if Tim was coming to Hope for the Warriors for a problem, say it was a financial problem or a PTSD, TBI, or he was looking for some type of a referral, or he wanted to get back into sports and recreation, or he wanted to go on a hunting trip, to try to just get back engaged into some healthy things that he wanted to do, was having marital problems, coming back from a deployment, and his kid's turned into a teenager, and now the kid's not listening, and he wants to try and find help with those kind of things. He would talk to our intakes team. We have a really great intakes team. So he's coming to us with a problem, this cataclysmic problem. This is the big problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our intakes team was really, really good at looking at that and saying, okay, we got to get this out of the way. They're going to be able to look at anything else. But it's kind of like a tree trunk. It's got all these little roots that kind of led up to it. So we're
Mm-hmm.
going to grind that tree trunk down, and then we're going to start looking at some of the, smaller problems that may have led up to that. And then we're going to address those too, through, whether it's our MSWs, if it's a financial assistance problem, financial counseling, education, things like that. If it's a medical or anxiety, PTSD, drug and alcohol, they may need to go to treatment if we can fund that. Things like that, or and once they're in there, if they have to go to like an intensive outpatient treatment, we have to look at funding something like that or getting help in that part with some of our partners. We have partners that'll pay for treatment, and then we'll pay for IOP, and then we have other places that we pay for the treatment and they pay for the IOP. So and as that go, but they always end up coming to me. It is the director of military relations and my team. I have 5 individuals that work with me, and we're all combat veterans. So we've all transitioned in. We've all been broke down and built back up. We've all served our time, and we've all transitioned out. So we've been through the gambit, just like every one of you out there in the audience. And, the only difference between, and I'll say this, and I say it to every audience I talk to, as an old sergeant major, any veteran out there, we had the luxury of going through boot camp and getting broke down and reprogrammed and then put in the ranks. All those spouses out there and partners out there that, was generous enough to love us and stayed with us and went through the ranks with us, they just got thrown into the frying pan, man.
Mm-hmm.
And, they got thrown into the frying pan back and forth. I don't know how many times. So, down here in Jacksonville, we partner with the CVN, the Cohen Veteran Family Clinic. And so we have a hard shell facility here, and they're all over the country, and he partners with different nonprofits, but we're very close with the Cohen Veteran Clinic, and we refer people to them all over the country, where we have some of our staff located close to them. But we look at those things, but they'll end up at military relations. And so we have a veteran connection to every one of those veterans that come into our programs, through our intakes team, and it ends up in our programs. And we have our transition program that does resumes. We do job hiring board rehearsals. And we have job fairs listed underneath our transition on our website. It's all over the country. Some are virtual, some are in person. But they'll come to us because life ebbs and flows. I've had veterans that were really struggling in the beginning and have done well, then something's happened. And so we'll call them once a month, twice a month, once a week, whatever they like. And they can stay with us their whole life. And sometimes they've had to come back for assistance in one way or another. They may have had a crisis. they might have lost somebody to suicide, or after they've come back, they might have hard dates. We call them hard dates, tough periods during the year that their unit may have got hit really hard, or they lost somebody over there, and or they just have a hard time with grieving now. You know what I mean? They have a hard time with loss, and then some that self-medicate. We have a lot of that too. COVID was really hard for that.
Yes, it was
horrible. So we work through all of those things. You know what I mean? And we work together, veteran to veteran, and we also have peer groups that we do here in Jacksonville, up in New York, out in California, with Wounded Warrior battalions, and regular veterans. There's no clinicians. There's no psychologists. There's nobody there taking a roster of names when you walk in. There's nobody taking notes. It's just like a bunch of veterans. We get together. It's like being at the smoke pit behind the barracks, and whoever has a bone to chew on throws it out there. And we just sit there as veterans, brothers and sisters, and we take care of each other.
Right.
Every week. And now, actually, we're going to have to grow the one out here, because we've been doing it ever since, started it the week after the Afghanistan pullout, the way that it went. Because everybody on our caseloads was freaking losing their mind. And so that's when we started it. And some of them has moved now, but they didn't want to leave the group. So they asked if they could start zooming in. So now we're going to have a Tuesday virtual group and a Thursday in-person group. So it just keeps growing. So
that's good. That's good.
But that's kind of how everything works. We have strategic partnerships as well. We have outdoor adventures. We do runs, hikes, fishing trips, all kinds of different things like that too. We have a scholarship program for spouses and partners. We have the Warriors Wish every year, to where we give away wishes that we've done. We've built, one that wanted to get into gardening, so we built him a greenhouse. We've had other ones where we got him a Polaris fitted for his archery gear, so that he could ride around and hunt. We've done all different kinds of things. We're part of the Gary Sneese Foundation. If he builds a house, we'll take one of the rooms. We do all different types of things like that.
And one of the things that caught my eye too when I was researching your organization was you actually have a program for transitioning military members.
Yes.
That is one of very few in the country. Yes. Not very many organizations have that type of service.
We have it's called our Compass program, and retired Master Sergeant Brian Papaki runs it. And we just had our MR Zoom today, and he always comes in on our team and talks. And we were just really talking today about how like AI is just really jacking up people doing their resumes.
Yes.
Because they're not even reading the job description. They're just doing a resume. They're getting out of the military, and they're going through a resume class, and they're doing one resume, and they think that's the resume that they can just submit to every job that comes up on Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever. They don't understand that they need to read the job description and actually, create their resume to fit that job description.
Right.
So that's why when I mentioned earlier our transition program, Brian and his team works with our veterans and service members to first learn how to build a proper resume, but then have them go look and find like 2 or 3 job descriptions, right? And then retailer it, and then actually sit and go through an interview board, gets a couple staff members, 3 or 4 staff members, and actually practice the interview process, so that when they actually do go out to look for a job, they're not going into their first job interview like, oh my God, I've never done this. And, they're comfortable. They know what to expect. And, if you get a couple of veterans on there, we'll crack them up pretty good, ask them some hard questions, and get them prepared. So.
And now I remember when I separated from the Air Force back in '92, they gave me a checklist said, go around on base, get these marked off, and that was it.
Yep.
There is nobody to teach me how to do a resume. Nobody told me what job market was like. I didn't even know I qualified for VA benefits. There was no briefing. All it was, okay, here, sign here and see ya. So I'm glad that your organization has something to where veterans who had just separated or people getting ready to separate can go to and actually get answers. And because I'm my audience knows this. I know you don't, but I come from a military family. I had 3 brothers that were in the Air Force as well, and they were a lot older than I was, and they were a big influence on why I joined the military. But my brother Dennis, who was a Vietnam and a Gulf War veteran, decided to take his own life one Christmas Eve. Matter of fact, 22 years ago, this past Christmas Eve, and he too given a checklist, no briefings, no nothing, out the door, and he was already having demons, so he didn't know who to turn to either. And so after he did that, that's how I became an advocate and an activist, was because of what he did. And so next month is Suicide Awareness Month. And so I'm getting ready to do some speaking events next month. So I was doing some research, and I found out that 95% of all veteran suicide happened within the first 2 years of separation.
It's true.
And reading some of the statements from family members was their veteran was pretty much pushed out. You know, true, they had their honorable discharge and all that, but nothing prepared them that how different civilian life is compared to military life.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that caught my eye big time when I was researching Hope for the Warrior, was that you have that transition program, and I am so grateful that you do.
Yeah, and but I hate to interrupt you, but you're
Go
getting
ahead.
the hair standing up on the back of my neck.
Mhm.
We talk to so many units, because our military relations, our community outreach is phenomenal. I mean, um, we go to every veteran. We go to all the VSOs here, wherever we're located, and wherever any military bases are, and we talk to them at their transition. We talk to them at the base, so-called, their great transition programs, and they do the best that they can. And when their most experienced individuals are trying to leave their unit, the units are trying to stay functional. The units are trying to stay as ready as possible.
Mhm.
And so, some services do it way better than others. The Air Force does it today better than anybody. And then in the Army they're getting better. Navy's getting better. Marine Corps, I think we're probably still lagging. But we will work really hard to let them know that, especially the ones that are retiring and the younger ones that are getting out. So we tell the ones that are retiring, we're like, hey, you had 20 years of taking care, or 30 years of taking care of everybody else. You haven't got all your shit done. That general or that colonel is not going to be standing next to you in,
Mhm.
a month and a half when you're out there all by yourself. It's hard once you become a leader, and we just talked to them this exact way. You have become so used to taking care of everybody else that it's uncomfortable for you to take care of yourself. And any leader out there knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
As a leader, you are selfless and you sacrifice yourself to take care of your troops. And that's the way it is. And then when it comes time for you to take care of yourself, you feel guilty. Like, I can't leave work because now I'm going to look like a shitbag because I'm taking time off to take care of myself. I'm going to look weak. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's why we didn't go to the docks. Didn't matter if you were injured or not. That's why you
Right.
stood in front of PT and you ran to, and you hid your pain because you were the leader. You were the senior enlisted advisor. You were the senior enlisted leader. So it's that mindset. But we talk to them, and that's why we talk to the young. And I talk to the young guys. I'm like, okay, you're 25, you're 30. What injuries do you have? I don't have any injuries. I'm like, okay, do your knees hurt? Well, yeah. What about your feet? Yeah.
Mhm.
I said, okay, you're 30. What's your range of motion now? I said, well, I'm 63. How do you think that's going to be when you're my age?
Right.
When you go to your CNP exams, as soon as that thing starts to twinge, I said, when you're 60 or 70, I said, you're probably going to already have been cut on once. I said, you have this, people have to be able to teach them about what they rate, what they deserve, and how much wear and tear has been on their body compared to the normal human being that's
Right.
out in the street. So we work really hard with our veterans to explain these types of things that in the military, they don't talk on that personal level. They don't explain that. They don't explain the, 5-10 year plan. But what you said about the 2 year mark,
Mm-hmm.
we have found out between the 2 to 5 years after they get out are the critical years.
Yes.
That's where the stress build. That's like the peak stressor years of they don't understand me at home. The family's not understanding because my stress and anxiety, and if they have PTSD or TBI and they've never gotten it checked out, and it
Mm-hmm.
starts to build up, and then they start to self-medicate with either alcohol or whatever else. All that stuff starts to build up. They get really irritated at work. They may have a great job, and
Right.
they may be surrounded by some great people at their job, but if they're not military, you know,
Yeah.
they just want to do what they want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
a military-minded individual is like, "What's next?" And the other ones are saying, "Hey, stop! Just chill out." And they're like, "Well, I'm not lazy, and I know there's work to be done. Let's get the work done." So there's conflict. Those are the type of little conflicts that can build up
Yep.
every day. So, and that's our peer-to-peer support. We talk about these types of things that other people just don't understand. Like if a guy went home and started talking about that to his wife, she'd probably get scared, may get scared and go, "Oh my God, now he's in jeopardy of losing his job. What are we going to do about the paycheck? And what are we going to
Right.
do about our finances?" You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? That's just crazy. Just all you need to do is just relax, and has no idea like how that's affecting his mindset. And I am a productive person. I am a leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then transition into civilian life, and you lose
No.
that job. So now they think they're a failure.
Yeah. So we
Mm-hmm.
process that information on our one, like those peer to peer calls we do like every week or every 2 weeks or once a month. Um, and in recovery, if they've gone through treatment, and we work through that with them too, in their aftercare and things like that. But once you come to us, you're part of the family, man. I mean, it's as long as you want to be with us, you're going to stay with us. And if
That's
something
awesome.
goes wrong, we're here to help you again. And that's one thing that's a little different than us than a lot of other nonprofits. We actually have a grant from another military nonprofit because they refer to us so much.
Mm-hmm.
And but I'm not going to bust anybody out. Um,
There you go. But
so
now, as far as this transition program goes, um, is there any assistance for spouses that are having trouble transitioning as well?
yeah,
Because some of the research that I've been doing is that a lot of spouses also stress out when they transition it back into civilian life, because one, the camaraderie is not there anymore. You know, mom or dad is home constantly now. They're not deploying anymore. So that adds on to some more stress to the family as well. And so,
Yep,
so
they can do that, and that's exactly why we designed our scholarship program the way that we designed our scholarship program. Our scholarship program is for military spouses and partners, and we designed it that way because of what I said earlier about, you know, the benefits are always going to the service member,
mm-hmm.
and there's never any benefits going to the spouse. So our scholarship program is for the mothers, the spouses or partners that have stuck by that service member or veteran for that while during all the hard times, and they haven't been able to go to college. They haven't been able to finish their bachelor's to get their MSW or to get their doctorate or to get whatever. You know what I mean? So that's what that scholarship program's for is that after they've either retired or gotten out, that they can have time to finish what their dream was. You know, so I think that's really important. And that's not another cool thing about us. I think that a lot of people might like to hear is that we have a lot of military spouses that work with us too as well, and say that they're working for us now in Virginia, but then they get ordered to Okinawa, Japan, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll still work for us from Okinawa, Japan. Or if they get orders to Longstool, they'll still work for us from Longstool. It's not like they're a dental hygienist or a nurse and they're working here in the States and then they get orders and they got to lose their job here and they got to try and find a job over there. Or if they're a teacher here and they got to try and find a job over there. We're a military family minded nonprofit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Why would we do that to somebody after everything we've all been through as service members and spouses, right?
Yes.
So we really like that about us.
Now, you had mentioned sports because, well, I definitely know you being former Marine, you had PT almost every day. So us in the Air Force, once we left basic training, once a year, that's it. We have PT once a year. And so I know that speaking with fellow veterans, with all the traveling I've been doing, that's one of the things that they miss is the workouts, is the intramural sports. So, how does your sports program help veterans, deal with that as well?
Yeah, Tim, it's a great point. It, it's once we can clear some of those roadblocks out of the way. Um, Sometimes we're dealing with a lot of depression,
Mm-hmm.
um, and finances, and something. It's like just some of these other things that just have them so preoccupied. Um, and then we can get them to a place where, okay, hey, man, we got a run coming up, or we got a kayak trip coming up. What do you like to do? You know what I mean? What did you used to do before you came into the service that you really like to do? You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because everybody forgets.
Yes.
I mean, I grew up on a farm and I grew up on horses. I love to ride horses. Um, it's one of my passions. But if you would have asked me that after I joined the Marine Corps after a couple of years, I wouldn't even have thought about it. I would have been like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Um, so then we can get them back into what they like to do because we have Team Hope. Team Hope is in our sports and rec department. We also have Dungeons and Dragons team.
Oh,
Augie
wow.
runs Augie runs a Dungeons and Dragon thing, which I'm the wrong guy to talk about any of that stuff because like the most modern video game I've ever played is like Pong or Tetris. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
same here.
but they and then they got the other one. It's the I don't know. It's kind of like it looks like you're actually in battle. I can't remember what it's called. They got Scott. Scott's starting one of those up. But it's really popular too. But they play every week, and there's like 80 different 80 different veterans on there, and they play. But it's whatever they're into, and we'll get them plugged into it, whatever. We've had MMA matches that we get them to. We get tickets to football games. We get them tickets to the what was it? The Veterans Day game. The one of the college one of the college bowl games. We partner with the Commanders. Get with them. We get we just had our golf invitational up here in Wallace, and we had Jim McMahon up there, and some Pete Rose, or not Pete Rose, but Johnny Bench was up there with us. He supports us. From the Big Red One back in the back in the 70s. We're telling our age now, but we have a lot of strategic partnerships, with the Zach Brown Band, Camp Southern Grounds. There's just a lot of different places within this country that we connect with. We're not a nonprofit that's like it's Hope for the Warriors or nothing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The more people that we can connect with, and the more either businesses, sponsors, or other nonprofits that have things that can help us and that have therapeutic, ways that can help veterans and families and service members, are great partners and have great reputations. We're like, come on, we want to team up. What do we have that you can utilize, and what do you have that we may not have that you can utilize? How can we work together to make a holistic, we're all into the holistic way that we can make someone well. Mm-hmm. And that's the most important thing. And that's why we don't have commercials. That's why we don't do that kind of stuff, because we're looking to find how to take care of that veteran, service member, family member, Gold or Blue Star family. We want those kids to have scholarships when they grow up,
Yes.
But when it comes to sports, we always got every month there's something going on. The only 2 months it kind of really slows down is maybe mid-October or mid-November to towards the end of, middle of, because we can do the Macy's Day Parade, we do the Rockefeller tree lighting, and then we do the ball drop up in New York City too. So we do those too. So we're a little bit busy during that time of the year too.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Plenty of things. Now, one thing I failed to ask at the beginning is, how did Hope for the Warriors start?
Well, it started at a kitchen table here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Robin Kelleher and Mrs. Maxwell got tired of hearing what was going on in the barracks and all the problems of the Marines and things getting to their appointments. And we had a couple medical emergencies because of what I was talking about earlier about medications. Mm-hmm. They might have saw the doctor this 2 weeks, and then they had to see another doctor and got prescribed a different type of medication for the same thing. And we had a couple of Marines overdose. But they were taking medications like they were supposed to. So everybody kind of saw what was going on. And like I said, back in 2006 is when we stood up. We were only 3 years hard into the war. And we were learning a lot of lessons because we had been at peacetime for a long time. Desert Shield, Desert Storm hit, but it was quick.
Yes.
And but we had been fighting for 3 years now. And so we were learning things in a more modern environment, in a more modern system than we had like in Vietnam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So things were different, and that's when things changed. And Robin and Mrs. Maxwell, and who at Wounded Warrior Battalion East over here, Maxwell Hall is named after her husband because he ended up he got blown up over in Iraq. He ended up being the first commanding officer at Wounded Warrior Battalion East. So they named the barracks after him. And then our first run was a fundraiser, the Jacksonville run that we do every year. So it's a half marathon, 10K and 5K. And then we have the Memorial Mile, which is the first mile. And it's got, the whole time you're running it, it's got placards set up of those who had paid the ultimate sacrifice. And as you run, you see them as you're running by, and everybody normally they'll touch the boards with the pictures of the soldiers or airmen or sailors or Marines or Coast Guard.
Now, how did you get involved with Hopes for the Warriors?
Well, I retired in 2018 after 33 years in the Marine Corps, and I was doing a contracting job up in Philadelphia just for, after like 3 months, my wife was like about ready to kick me out of the house. I'd washed and waxed the cars and cleaned the garage out and cut the grass every other day. And, you know, she was like, you got to find something to do. And so a mentor of mine, a sergeant major that, while my last post was 3MEF sergeant major out of Okinawa, I had the Pacific. And he sent me this job description, and he said, Lee, this is you. This is, as soon as I read it, I thought of you. And so I went and interviewed and got the job. And, you know, the old man upstairs knows what he's doing. So, I mean, as long as I'm riding in the bus, I'm okay. Anytime I try and take the wheel, it's not going to go so good. So I'm like a 24-hour-a-day guy. I like to stay in the moment. Everybody on my team carries their phone 24/7, 365. Our veterans can call us any day, anytime. Doesn't matter. I mean, we get in trouble all the time because we get up early on Christmas and Thanksgiving and 4th of July and whatever day it is, New Year's, and we're mass texting our clients, you know, hey, we call them on their birthdays. We call them on their service birthdays. You know what I mean? They're important to us. They're part of our family. So, you know, and, you know, sometimes it's not an emergency. Every once in a while, you know, like I can't say their name, but, you know, he's getting a promotion. Like a year and a half ago, this guy was horrified to leave the Navy, scared to death. And we put him in a transition program, and then he got a job. And now, you know, the head of the corporation is doing a contract for him to now be in charge of this department in 5 plants. Oh, after only working there under a year. And all he needed was just some confidence, somebody to believe in him. And that's what we do as veterans. As long as we believe in each other.
That's right.
And we can build that bridge and that trust and have each other's back, just like we did in the ranks. We can do this on the outside. We can make it.
We can.
So
now I put the URL for your website in the banner. So for those of you who only have the audio, it'll be in the description when you go to Apple or Spotify or whatever to download this. It'll be in the description. Now, what advice do you give to I wouldn't say veterans, but actually active duty who are getting ready to separate? Would you recommend them getting a hold of you prior to separating, just to make sure that they have a support system when they do finally separate?
Oh, definitely. I would definitely have them get a hold of us before that, because there's not anybody that had a perfect plan.
I know.
I didn't have a perfect plan.
Neither did I.
Everybody thinks they have one because they don't prepare us for it. And like the things that we talked about on here today, you know, nobody talks to you about those kind of things. Nobody
Right.
talks to you from going from being a complete cognitive reasoning individual that has compartmentalized so many different things that would stress the normal human being, like make their top of their head blow off. We
Hmm.
compartmentalize it and keep functioning and keep completing the mission year after year after year after year after year. You know, um, and then all of a sudden we're out and we're surrounded by emotions and more emotions
Yep.
and everyday things and having to go to stores and having to go do these daily menial tasks and having to listen to your neighbors. And I don't like my neighbors. I don't want to listen to the same story 10, 15 times. I don't want to hear somebody talking about themselves freaking 100 times. You know what I mean? I don't really
Hmm.
like people. I mean, it only took me about a month to realize I really don't like people. I don't even want to talk to them. But it was because I really hadn't gotten a chance to understand and know myself, not being on active duty.
Right. It only
And
took
I'm
me 30 years to finally figure that out myself.
exactly, and to have those conversations before they get out, and to be able to start talking about the transition is not just finding a job. It that's like 10% of it. There's so much
Mhm.
more to it than just the job. It's There's so much more to it, man. You got to find a support system. You got to understand and help paint a picture for them of at least what they can expect. I mean, if you can at least paint them a picture of the bridge of what they might be walking across
Mhm.
into, and that you're going to be there with them, or at least be on the other side waiting for them and say, "Hey, bro, you're here. Let's figure out what we can do and what we need to do." That's something that's really important. Instead of just all of a sudden hearing the door slam behind you, and then you have no idea where you're at, except you have a piece of paper in your hand.
Yes.
I got my resume. I'm good. So we're all about the connection. We're all about being there for you. We're all about and just learning, you know. And then after a while, you work together and you learn from each other and you grow with each other and you get through things together. And you know,
Yeah. It was hard going from having one goal that everybody had the same goal to everybody having different goals. And it's yeah.
yeah. And then other people have different goals for you. And
Yes.
you're not used to talking, going home and having three or four different people like try and dissect your idea and give
Hmm.
and like all that stuff, man. That's like crazy. That was craziness for me. But you know, that's all the kind of things that peer to peer group was and things like that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Those are people that love you and care about you and they're happy you're home and they want to be a part of your life now and that's love, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But to me, that was irritating as shit when I first got out. I was like, "Hey, man, I'm a sergeant major. I know what the hell I'm doing. Why are you telling me how to find a job?" You
Right.
know. Um, but but I just didn't. I couldn't see that they just loved me. They just
Right.
wanted to be a part of my life. I thought they were
Mhm.
like thinking I was stupid, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yep.
I just
Sure
need.
do.
I hadn't changed my identity yet. I didn't know how. So, but that's what we do, man. We work with individuals with whatever their struggle is. We'll get them back into whatever they need to get back into. We'll plug them into whatever they need to plug into, and be there with them the whole way.
Now, before we end this show, there's one thing that you had mentioned earlier, and uh, that was wish for the Warriors.
Yeah, Warriors Wish. Yeah.
Yes. How how does that program work?
You can go into our website, like I said before, and you just scroll down, and it'll say Warriors Wish, and it'll go in there and it'll tell you the time of the year that you can submit for it. And then we give away, I think 15 wishes a year, I think 10 or 15. That's different. It's another person's program. But 3 of my clients got wishes this year. I was very, very happy. So, and it's, and there are things that these individuals and these veterans use for life betterment, things that they really enjoy doing, like, I talked about the greenhouse. Now this dude is gardening. Like, he can garden up north during the wintertime now because he was getting majorly depressed in the winter. And he has to be up there because of some problems in his family, health problems in his family. He has to take care of people. But he loves gardening. So that's his therapy. So we were able to fulfill that wish. Another one was for a special kind of kayak to be built. You know what I mean? There's different kinds of things that we do for individuals that, depending on the wish and what it's for, it'll get done for them. Special kind of bike. But depending on if it needs to be an adaptive bike or things like that, those types of things.
All right. Well, Lee, it's been an absolute honor talking with you tonight, sir.
Hey, bro, anytime, man.
All right.
Anytime you want to have me on there, and anytime anybody wants to know anything about Hope for the Warriors, don't hesitate to go on that www.hopeforthewarriors.org. And you can even just connect to services if you're a veteran, and just say, hey, man, I want to talk to Lee and find out more about it.
Yep. Matter of fact, we're going to put a link for Hope for the Warriors on our network page for Veterans Insurance Network. And so this way, if a veteran comes to us saying, hey, I have no clue, I just got out, or I need help with this, we definitely know who to send them to now.
There you go, brother.
All right, Lee, it's been an honor, sir. And next week, folks, we do have another special guest coming on from Fieldstone Farms. They have an equestrian therapy program for veterans, so we're going to learn all about that next week. All right. And Lee, if you can just stay on for just one moment as we sign off here, that'd be fantastic.
Sure.
All right. See y'all next week, folks.